guys? It's Tim. Welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined with Richard again. Great to have you, buddy.
Good to be here.
We're going to cover a topic that we've talked about in years past, but it's been a while, so we want to refresh it. I mean, some things have changed. A lot has stayed the same, but we're talking about defensive ammo and, kind of our top 5 that we recommend people carry. Before we get into what we recommend, I want to talk about what we don't recommend. That's very simple.
There's a couple of very wrong answers. Generally, ball ammo is not going to produce the results you want it to for defensive purposes. Cheap hollow points that are loaded on the same basic ball cartridges aren't going to be great. You want to have a specific defensive load.
Yeah. Generally speaking, that means a hollow point of some kind, right? What are we going to be looking at on prices?
So probably around $1.50 a round is somewhere a good ballpark. So a box of 20 is going to run you about $30 roughly. That's another really good way to tell if you're getting into a quality product is if it's cheaper than about $1.25 to $1.50 a round, you might want to stay away from it. Probably a subpar loading.
Yeah, it's one of those buy once, cry once type things. I mean, I hate to say it, but you've just got to spend money on this to really get the performance that you need out of it. It's not going to be the cheapest thing in the world, and that's just what it is. So we talked about not carrying ball or full metal jacket. Why is that? Why shouldn't you carry that? And why should you carry some type of hollow point?
That boils down to terminal ballistics. On a ball or full metal jacket round, you're going to get a piercing effect where it goes in and comes out the same size and doesn't really do anything weird in between. On a bonded hollow point, you're going to get roughly 1.5 times the expansion of that round as it hits and goes through its target. And on the way, it's going to create temporary and permanent wound channels that can help with, in a defensive situation, stopping the threat. Mm-hmm. The more damage or energy that can be transferred, the more likely you are to get that person or attacker, whether it be animal or two-legged, to stop doing what you need them to stop doing.
Yeah. The reason a large permanent wound cavity is important is you've talked about timers and switches. The bigger hole you can leave in something, the more likely you are to hit one of those switches and not have to have made the perfect shot.
Right. Or decrease the timer.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't necessarily hit that switch, if we can get that timer to enact and go down quickly, the faster you can stop them from doing whatever it is. Because if we're having to use a gun in self-defense, it's generally, we need you to stop what you're doing now. Yeah. Not in 5 minutes, not in 30 seconds, now.
No, immediately.
Another thing with these hollow points, because they're bonded, they're going to keep a lot of their weight retention, and that just helps with their punching power and that energy transfer.
Yeah. Another thing we should probably touch on is testing your ammo, right? I don't think anybody should just buy a box of ammo and then toss it in the gun and hope that it works.
Right.
Personally, I like to run at least a box through the gun as I'm going to carry it. If it can get through 20 rounds, it's probably okay. I know, Richard, you were saying you would like a little more than that.
So, yeah, general recommendation, like I've seen guys get to crazy numbers, like you should shoot 300 rounds of your carry ammo before you go to, put it in. I don't have that kind of money to just be blasting through 30 rounds of carry ammo. I think that a good solid number, 20 isn't bad, but whatever you're going to carry on you, let's say that you're going to carry a Glock 17 with 2 spare magazines, then I would want to see 3 17-round magazines worth of ammo get put through that gun for me to be confident in it. Same thing if you had something that was a little lower capacity, if you're carrying a J-frame, something like that, then, 5 to 10 rounds through that gun for me to feel more confident in it. Okay. But so I would want to see a carry loadout make it through the gun.
For sure.
But 20 is probably adequate.
Yeah, I think
the biggest thing is the recoil impulse and the feeding on a hollow point may be different than standard ball ammunition in your particular firearm. And we want to verify that your gun's going to feed that ammo and that you're going to be at least somewhat aware of how it's going to perform as far as recoil and point of impact, maybe a slight shift.
Yeah. Especially if you have a red dot. What are you zeroed for?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or I zero for my duty rounds. That means, or my carry rounds, I should say. That means that in training, my impacts are a little off. Yeah. But it's okay. I'd rather have it set up for what I'm going to need it for and just have to adjust a little bit on the fly in training, then have to adjust to the other way, and to do it the other way.
You will not make that adjustment.
Nope.
In a defensive situation. You're going to default to your lowest level of training.
Yeah, for sure. Another question that this begs to ask is, how much of your defensive round should you have on hand?
Right. So obviously you're going to need enough to cover your daily carry, what's in your gun, what's in your spare magazine. If you're carrying a second or third spare magazine as that goes, I would want to have at least that much, but probably recommend having that much in reserve. So generally double the amount of whatever it is your daily carry is probably a good minimum number.
Yeah.
If you can't afford to do that, then just at least get your gun and mag full.
Yeah.
But if you can afford it, I would carry at least that much in reserve.
Yeah. And if you can afford more, obviously
yeah.
stack it deep.
Yeah.
Buy it cheap, stack it deep. That's the mantra of the industry. But yeah, if you carry, I carry a Glock 19 and this extra 17 round mag. I've got 2 boxes that I don't touch ever.
Right.
That just live there until it's time to cycle it out.
Yep. Same thing where you rotate through your carry ammo in the gun. I'd rotate through your stock as well.
Yep.
It's just a good habit to get it.
First in, first out.
Yeah. Most of the carry ammos are shelf stable for a long time, but we live in a fairly humid area, so depending on where you live, you may have to rotate faster or slower, etc.
Richard, what do you carry?
So my personal carry round right now is the Federal HSTs. I'm choosing a 147 grain. Really doesn't matter. The 124s, 147s, they're all going to perform very similarly. It's just kind of personal preference. But the HSTs have a lot of backing to them. There's tons of data out there on them, on their lethality and stopping power.
The stopping power.
Yeah. That's just the round I landed on.
Yeah. I'm going to be in a very different boat than Richard here. I carry G9 defense. They are a solid copper, very light for caliber offering. They're an 80 grain projectile. What that means is they're going really fast. So you can still get you're actually getting better performance out of the G9 in gel than some of these other more traditional hollow point designs because of how fast they're going. One place to look at that, we're gonna have a link to it in the bottom in the description, is Viper Weapons. They've done a test on every single offering we have out here through both gel and actual meat. I think they used a brisket. But it outperformed all of these by some very impressive factors.
Yeah, substantial margin. The spun copper or solid projectiles, the time I started carrying, the technology just wasn't there yet. People were experimenting with it, but really didn't have great results. It looks like G9 has cracked the code on that, and they're very impressive.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to think about. I mean, I also kind of cut my teeth in the industry when these like lighter cartridges weren't looked at as something you could seriously use.
Right.
You had a couple like frangible loadings that were this light or some weird polymer thing, but they weren't serious contenders for defensive use.
There wasn't enough data on them.
Yeah.
That's another thing on these. Part of the reason we chose these for the traditional hollow points is that there is a ton of data on them. They're all meeting that 12 inches plus of penetration that the FBI was looking at, and they're all expanding to roughly 1.5 times their original diameter. The G9 is coming in with a very impressive permanent wound cavity and more penetration than any of the other contenders.
And speaking of the other contenders, we've got Spear Gold Dot, Winchester Defender, or PDX-1, whichever they're calling it nowadays. It's the same projectile, and Remington Golden Saber. These are 3 heavy hitters in the bonded hollow point world. I mean, Gold Dot is the gold standard that people compare to nowadays, or have compared to for years.
Yeah, probably one of the #1 law enforcement rounds out there for a very long time. The Winchester has gone through several renamings. If I'm not mistaken, that was the evil Black Talon ammo from back in the day that got the bad rap, but it's the same basic loading. And then the Golden Sabres have been a kind of defensive choice for 20, 30 years at this point.
Yeah, they're all really good options. You can't go wrong with these three for sure. Richard and I have just landed on the other two based on our own research and our own shootings, our own dealings with it, not actual shooting people, but
clarify that one.
Yeah, not actually shooting people, luckily, but actual like training and testing, which brings us into another good topic. You should shoot your carry ammo. It is going to feel different than your normal range ammo. And that sucks because, like we talked about earlier, it's expensive. But something I do is I rotate my carry round every 6 months.
Okay.
So every 6 months, I burn the whatever I have loaded up, and that's what I've got to do. I've just got to replace it at that point. That's probably a little often. A lot of people do a year of replacing their ammo, but
I wouldn't go more than in between election cycles. Probably yearly is a good one to get in the habit of, but you could probably make it a couple of more. All you're doing is trying to make sure that those rounds stay in good condition, that they're not going to have any moisture in them or anything like that. That's the last thing you want is when you're in a defensive situation for your gun to go click when you need it to go bang. Another one is kind of the way I get into that regiment is if I'm having to do dry fire practice or download my gun for whatever reason, every time I take a round out of that chamber, that round doesn't go back in, it goes into my training pile, and that's part of the way I'll cycle through my rounds.
Okay, yeah. So how often are you dry firing? Because
not enough.
That's a lot of rounds to burn through.
Not enough.
That's okay.
Moral of the story is carry critically, like think critically when you're carrying. Choose a solid contender for your carry ammo. These are our recommendations. There are a couple others out there on the market, but if we want to be real honest about it, this is a really good short list. There's a couple of runner-ups out there that they have a lot of marketing behind them, but they're just not quite as good across the full spectrum of either performance or reliability.
Fully agree. I think there's a lot of smoke that has been generated when it comes to carry rounds. Like I'm gonna say it, the G2 RIP stuff that really took off early just doesn't perform. It doesn't run well in a gun. Those super sharp pedals just jam up all the time, and it doesn't actually fringe.
The performance wasn't there. The hype was there for sure. So just watch some of the marketing schemes. See if you can get third-party numbers or find somebody who's actually done gel testing on your rounds before you kind of pick. Again, these ones that we settled on, there's tons of data out there. It's not like it was a one-of test. There's 100 tests on almost every single one of these rounds that shows very similar performance. For sure, 100%. Yeah, guys. So if you carry one of these, let us know in the comments. If you don't carry one of these, let us know. What are you carrying? We're interested. We're always learning here. This is what we've picked, but let us know what you guys run at the house. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Carry with confidence.